back of Saturday, Stuart, it was huge disappointment from you clearly. How are you feeling? A good few days on from it.
No, listen, I'm fine. I'm disappointed. Of course, I'm disappointed by the position that we find ourselves in. I'm disappointed by the result for the performance. But I've always been somebody that gets up and goes again. So on Monday, my job is to make sure that we're planning for Friday. My job is to make sure that the players are back on it. And I said this openly as well. My job's also to find out who's on board again. That some people could go under off the back of such a performance and such a result. Some people can go under with the bit of scrutiny and the bit of pressure. So again, our job as a staff to try and find out who will step up to the plate come the Friday, who can give us a level of consistency, because we've seen bits from most, if not all, through this period of time of good, but we've also seen the bad as well. So it's a game of trying to find a level of consistency. I've said to you time and again, Paul, that we go out onto the pitch Monday to Friday and we see real consistency, we see good quality, we see great desire. Our issue has been at times when we're in the heat of battle, when it really counts in a match day. And listen, sometimes for me that's a mentality as much as it's anything else, whether it's a capability. I think it's more a mentality. And again, people, when they like my comments, people have just been asked there, do I stand by the comments? I do, and it's not for show and it's not for effect. 100% I do. But I try to stress that we can try and dramatise it and try and create a scenario, and everybody wants to ask you questions. I kind of laugh at it, to be honest with you, because I've said that. What I say to you guys is what I've said to the players. I've always worked that way. I will never come and say something here I've not said to the players. I won't say stuff to the players that I won't be allowed to make public, because then what we're doing, it just becomes a bit of a charade and it becomes a bit of kid on that I can say certain things to some people. I believe in honesty. I believe in this game. The supporters, I listen to so much. You listen to the radio and you listen to various things, and you watch analysis, you watch the telly and everything else, and I just sometimes think we're trying to say things to protect ourselves and we're trying to protect other people. I don't think you can. If I'm a football supporter with my nature and with my mindset, I want the manager to tell the truth. I don't want him to try and kid us on and paper over the cracks. If I'm a player, I would rather hear the honest version as opposed to maybe trying to make me feel a wee bit better or going over the top when it's not necessary. I'd rather just hear the most accurate version. And listen, at the weekend you guys heard the most accurate version I had, and the players heard the most accurate version. I think deep down in their heart of hearts, I think most supporters would agree with what I said. Deep down I know the staff agree with what I said, but most importantly I think the players do as well. There'll be one or two that don't, which can be the case, and they'll not want to acknowledge it and not want to accept it. But I see a lot of guys out there that understand what I was saying was true, and they hold their hands up to it. But for me, the only way you can respond to it is by playing football. It's not in words. It's how you go and perform when you get that next opportunity. And I stress it again that the inconsistency has been the biggest challenge here for us. We've seen some good, we've seen some clean sheets, we've seen some victories, we've seen some good points in the road, we've seen some great starts to games, we've had several really good starts to games, but we've also had some terrible starts to games, i.e. what happened here on Saturday. So for us, it's we actively need to find a way and a catalyst and a stimulus to try and find a level of consistency between now and the end of the season, whether that's in personnel, shape, tactics. We need to try and find something that's relatively consistent, because when you get that, it gives you a strand to be able to work from as a player, but also as a coach, a manager, and a supporter, something to follow.
One of the things you said after the game, Stuart, was that certain players might not be mentally equipped for what lies ahead and may not play a part. Is that something you've decided on, or can you shed any more light on that?
I think it's something that probably continues between sort of now and the end of the season, because I think you see that in a game, maybe that can be a little bit knee-jerk, but I think the response of kind of what comes now, whether it be from an injury, whether it be from what I've seen in your performance, whether it's what I see with your body language, I think there can be a phrase as well, and there's kind of no shame on this in many ways. Sometimes the job's massive, as in the ask of it, the task. We speak about it at big clubs, that's a heavy jersey to wear, or it's a big situation to live in. Sometimes, maybe at this stage in some people's career or where they are at this minute in time, sometimes that can be a little bit too much for them. And again, that's not me judging you as a person, it's just judging what we see in terms of your performance, whether it be in making mistakes that result in goals or whatever. Sometimes I would need to make a call on that to say whether I think that you're capable at this minute in time. That's not for your career, that's not for the rest of your life. Are you capable of dealing with what the ask of this is at this minute in time? So that's a decision that I'll have to make. That's something that I'll absolutely look into and have been looking into. And again, it's not to try and ostracise players or individuals, it's to try and find the right solution, so that, you know, if we're seeing something that's pretty decent Monday to Friday, is that replicating in the individual when it comes to the demands of a game of football?
We talked about the mental side of it there, and before we mentioned inconsistencies through the week and on the pitch. Do you have a core of players that you really trust to go out and deliver at this point?
Yeah, listen, I'll go on record and say that I think that there's a lot of good people in that dressing room. There really is. There's a lot of guys with good experience, a lot of really good people. There's a lot of people that are hurting, because again, we kind of forget that one sometimes. I think people just look at these guys on the pitch and think they've lost a game of football and that they don't care. With a lot of people that do care, a lot of people that do care and are finding the situation difficult. Because they're taking their slice of responsibility. I've not spoken to one player that's turned around and said, well, they're all rubbish and I'm doing my job. Not one. Every single one of them would include themselves in the position that we find ourselves in, with results and performances, where they starts with themselves. So I think that can give people an indication of who they are, and that they are hurting, and it does mean something to them. As much as we can try and say that it doesn't sometimes, it definitely does. It definitely does. But I think what you're looking for at times is guys that have been over the course. Sometimes you can be looking at younger ones that maybe aren't damaged and haven't had a difficult spell. But again, I kind of go back to it. I need to focus on who I think can deal with the task in hand. And I might get that right, I might get that wrong. But it's almost a body language and mentality thing as much as it is how you're going to play football, because I don't think at times with some of them, it's some of the players, it's that they're not capable of doing it. It's for potentially mental reasons, pressure, not quite being where we want to be. That can sometimes be affecting decision making and performance.
It would be easy for some of the fans to say, play the kids. I know it's not as simple as that, but have you considered, throwing a couple of them into the mix?
Yeah. Well, again, I would always go back to this, and people at times maybe want to forget it, whatever. But if anybody looks at my coaching career, management career, everyone will see. I think statistically, I have done for a period of time, played a lot more younger players than anybody else. Certainly through a spell in the Premier League over a couple of seasons, that was absolutely the case. And I think in most occasions, more than double the minutes for some of the young players. So that's something I always look to. Andrew, but I also need to acknowledge when the time is right to do that, and people say maybe it doesn't, that result doesn't become any worse if you play young players, etc. I need to make sure that if I'm introducing young players and they're getting an opportunity, it needs to be at a time where they can flourish, and that we're not killing them in their career, and you're not tarring them by what might be a bad brush in a game of football. Now they can make mistakes, they can make errors, but it's slightly different at this minute in time just to start saying we're going to throw in 3 or 4 young players into what is an incredibly difficult situation. I think we as a group and a collective, the people that have been involved in it, need to take ownership for it. I definitely do. That's not to say that you might not see 1 or 2 young players in there, but I'm massive on trying to make sure that time is right and that opportunity is right for the young player. You go in and play a young player, it's a terrible day, he makes a mistake which leads to a vitally important goal going against you. Some can handle it, some can deal with it, but I need to make sure that time is right when that opportunity comes about. And this isn't a case of would I play young players. I've shown time and again I will, but I need to stress and I need to reiterate that timing needs to be right for their career and not just me trying to make a point or prove a point.
playing on Friday as well gives you the opportunity, should you win, to get above Airdrie before they play as well. Is that a kind of benefit for you, if you like?
Of course it is. Of course it is. As bad as everybody thinks and knows that the situation we find ourselves following Saturday, which again I'm sticking my hands up to and I'm owning that fact. I always think about what can potentially become, what can come next. You know, what's your opportunity to try and do something next. I kind of thought about that last night watching Liverpool playing against PSG. God, we think there's scrutiny on us at times. You look at a club like Liverpool and they lose 4-0 to Man City, and then your next gig is to possibly go and play against the best team in Europe away from home, where they're kind of flawless. And I was looking at that situation. I know what the result was, I know how the game went, but I'm actually thinking, I think that's the one that you lick your lips and that you're relishing as a Liverpool player, because it can be doubly a good message if you can go and perform well and get a result. Now I know they didn't, but I think that has to be your mindset going into those challenges, and that's exactly how my mindset is going into the game on Friday. You're playing against a team that's had a really good run of form. They've done really well over this last period of time. For me, I can't make players think that way, but I know how my mind's working at this minute in time, and it's going to be the job of myself and the staff to get the players to understand that you are first one up on the Friday. You could make that feel good if you turn in a performance and a result, and the task is a big one, because you're playing against a team that are performing well and very, very difficult at this minute in time to get anything off of.
Team news, I suppose.
We've got a few injuries. We're carrying a few things. Alistair, Uche Ekpeju being one of them. Conor Randall picked up a knock yesterday. Dean Cornelius, Sean Mackey are four. Josh Reed's back running, trying to get himself back into the mix of things, but it'll come too early. But the other four are doubts, but they still have time to be available for the game on Saturday.
And it almost got forgotten, but Noah Chilvers made his long-awaited comeback.
Yeah, and you're right. I think you can see how well appreciated he is by the people here for what he'd done before his injury. Heard him going to warm up early in the game, and you're thinking that can be a good catalyst sometimes. You see him coming on the pitch, the reaction he gets at 3-0 when he comes on, the reaction's fantastic, it's brilliant, but it was kind of all lost in the performance and the result, unfortunately. But it wasn't on me, and it wasn't on Noah, and I don't think it was on his teammates or anybody else about the club. We all acknowledge he's had a tough time getting back from an injury, but it was nice to see him on the pitch, irrespective of the result and performance. Okay,
Thank you.
cheers, thank you.